Hello, Chicago, and welcome to the Monsters of the Madhouse Chicago Sports Podcast. I am your host, Brandon Duplessis, joined by Kyle and Sean, and the one and only Kurt Becker. Kurt, how you doing tonight?
I'm great. Good evening, guys. How are you?
Good.
Good, man.
Good.
Good.
Sean, how you feeling?
Loving the night. Loving the night. Can't wait to get going.
So, Kurt, the All-American Michigan Ironman, Walter Payton's road paver, the Super Bowl champion, championship coach, and true Chicagoan, our guest tonight has worn many titles during an elite and storied football career in which he wrote the standard of excellence at his position. A native son of Aurora, very cool by the way, Kurt. Kurt Becker was born to be a football player, and what football player and a man he is. Welcome once again, Kurt, and thanks a lot for sharing your time with us tonight.
No problem. You guys got me up late. 9 o'clock. I'm in bed. So that's all right. I love to talk football and people that have passions about it. So it's the greatest sport in America.
Kurt, as a young suburban kid out of Aurora, how did you first end up falling in love with the sport of football?
So I'm a little older than you guys, but growing up, there was no internet, there was no TikTok, there was no video games. It was just old school, back of the yard playing sports. Summertime, the neighborhood kids would just get together and either go out and make bases out of cardboard and play baseball, or find a field and play football. You know, Living in a house, there weren't multiple TVs. There was one TV set with 4 channels. So um, you made your own fun back then, and it was pure fun, right? So just grew up in the neighborhood with kids, and we were always playing some type of sport. And eventually, I went to a parochial school, and then I went to the public school system in junior high, and that's where they offered football. So I got involved with sports. I had an older brother, and he was involved also, so he kind of paved the way for me.
Kurt, did you feel like you were destined to play guard, or did it just kind of you got to the Michigan and the coach told you that's where you're lining up, and was there any
No,
other position?
I probably in today's football world, I'd probably play tight end, but them dudes are, 6'6", 280, right? But
Yeah.
back then, everybody was kind of slotted by their size where they put them in a position. But the football I did watch, I thought it was cool when, you'd watch the Green Bay Packers and they'd run a sweep to the right or left. I always wanted to be a pulling guard, right? Them dudes were all padded up and coming around the corner and blasted people. And then, the Oakland Raiders, their guards out there. And, and then you had USC that was running student body right and student body left, so I thought that was a pretty cool position to be a pulling guard. And then, a former Michigan alum and a very dear friend of mine, Reggie McKenzie, Reggie blocked for O.J. Simpson in Buffalo, and that was O.J. in the electric company, right? So, and same kind of thing, watching those type of guys. So that's really what kind of hooked me in.
Is there any position you would have preferred to play other than guard?
Well, I did play a little center, and looking back, if you play center, you can play a long time. Being a pulling guard, we ran a lot of sweeps and a lot of traps, and that puts a lot of mileage on you because those are high speed collisions, and that really taxes your career. With center, your guys pretty much on you. They pull a little bit and move around, but the type of offenses I was in with Michigan and then with the Bears, we did a lot of pulling, a lot of trapping, a lot of sweep, and like I said, those are high speed car wrecks every play. So it does put a little wear and tear on you.
Hey, Kirk, you lived every kid's football dream, playing from East Aurora High School to the University of Michigan. Who was the most influential person or thing that happened that elevated your game at the University of Michigan?
Well, I always say when I talk, I was very, very fortunate. I had three very important men in my life. I had a father that, he was a middle class, hardworking man, and he taught me, strong values of hard work, pride, commitment, all those core values, right? And and with those core values, I played high school football, and then I had the opportunity to go to University of Michigan, and then to have Bo Schembechler as your coach. I mean, that just carries on everything that was instilled in you earlier in your life, right? And Bo was unbelievable. Love him to death, and I'm sure I contributed to a lot of his health reasons. But he was just he was the real deal. Not only in X's and O's, but just as a person and commitment and that. And then for me to go to the Chicago Bears and play for Mike Ditka, I mean Mike. Probably not the greatest X and O's guy ever, but his highest qualities were, his level of competition, that he instilled in you, his organizational skills, and then of course his motivational skills that went with it. So, I had three very strong pieces that kind of molded who I was.
That's pretty awesome.
Kurt, we got a question from somebody, one of our viewers, loyal fan, Cliff. We always like to get these guys involved. Mm-hmm. He says, "Hey, Kurt Becker, thanks for the 4 years as a Bear. And as a 6th-round pick, do you have any advice for our 4th and 5th rounders?" I think he's asking those numbers specifically because we didn't have a 6th-round pick this year.
Well, when I got drafted, there was 12 rounds, 2 days, right? And so, if you really look at rosters, throughout the NFL, rosters, a good general manager is going to find players wherever they fall, right? And, so it really, the only difference of what round you get picked in is dollars and cents, but at that point in 1981, when I got drafted, it wasn't about the money because there wasn't money, but it was more about, the ability to play for a team and to be picked by the Chicago Bears, it was a storied franchise. George Halas started the NFL. So, when I was at Michigan, I learned a lot about football, but the one thing I learned about was the word tradition. Michigan was playing football before football was invented, and you can't go out and buy tradition. It has to be earned. And so it is a special sauce. It really is. And then to be drafted by the Bears, they're all about tradition, right? And so tapping into that was, I knew that sauce and I knew what it was all about. So that was good.
Kurt, what was it like? What was it like blocking for Walter Payton?
Walter was like, obviously probably one of the best running backs there was in the league or is. And, we had great running backs in college. And then, to block for Walter and, Walter was just a natural athlete. Right. And, if you worked hard for him, he was going to work hard for you, So it was really, really good. It was an honor, but he was a hardworking dude, and he played the game the way it was supposed to be played.
Any memory or story about Walter that sticks out to you?
Walter is just everybody knows he was a prankster, right? And he was full of pranks, right, from on the field and off the field, and we had in the old days when we were in the old Halas Hall, which was Lake Forest College. I don't know if you guys remember that. It was a dungeon, right? And the rookies, they put us in the basement with metal lockers, right? And we got treated like a dog. And Walter lit a quarter stick of dynamite and threw it down the stairwell and about made us all deaf, right? And that was our first taste of him. And then on the field, one time I remember there was a big pile up, and the referee's sitting there trying to get everybody out of the pile, and Walter's on the bottom of the pile, and all of a sudden I see a little set of hands come out of the bottom of the pile, and it's Walter's hands. He unties the referee's shoes and ties his laces together on him. So, but Walter was good.
He was amazing.
He was definitely a superb athlete, and just natural all the way.
Yeah, and so Mark, in regards to you talking about your days in Michigan, I want to ask, because you did play for, obviously, in the glory days when especially for the programs like the Bears in Michigan, when football is a little more based around running. You played for, obviously, Becker. What was his offensive philosophy, and how did it help you become an All-American player?
Bo was like, he came out, all those guys came out of the same hardhead school, Woody Hayes and Bo and all those guys. And, Bo, and their philosophy was very simple, They'd line up in a basic, I formation, 2 tight ends. And, they pretty much going to tell you where they're going to run the ball. And they would say, pretty much, you can't stop us. So the key in order to do that is I have to have better athletes than you, So it was the recruitment of athletes. And then also, taking raw talent. And one thing Bo and his staff did is they would take raw talent and they would coach them up to be football players. And I think that's a missing element nowadays, And so they did a great job with that. But it was just pretty much, my guys are better than your guys. This is where we're going to run it, and there's nothing you can do about it. That's old school. Woody Hayes did the same thing.
Smashmouth.
Smashmouth. And, that's what Jim Harbaugh tried to do and did a little bit, So, and it as they say in football, it's not the X's and O's, it's the Jimmy and Johnny's, right? So when you got the horses, you can pretty much do whatever you want. But when you don't, then you have to go into trickery and deception and all that. So
you're limited.
Speaking of Michigan State, Ohio State, what's your fondest memory of that rivalry over your time in Michigan?
Well, Woody, that was part of the 20-year war, right, with Woody Hayes. And I would have loved to play for Woody, too, because he was a complete nutcase, Brian Bashnag, who played for the Bears, was a captain for Woody Hayes.
Yeah.
So we would, share stories and stuff. But, Woody, the Michigan-Ohio State game was like, it was big. And, Woody tore up the sideline markers in Ann Arbor. The story goes, it started in 1968, like Woody's beating us in Columbus, like 50-6 or 50-7, right? And Ohio State scores like with a minute left. And Woody goes for 2-point conversion, right? They're already winning by 50 points. So the media asked him, Woody, why'd you go for 2? And he goes, because I couldn't go for 3. So, and then it was like game on, right? That started the 20-year war. And, Woody was, those were great games, Michigan, Ohio State. Still are.
Still are. Absolutely.
But that's when the Big Ten was the Big Ten. Now it's Lord knows what. I
still look forward to that game at the end of every football season. You have to.
It's a classic college football game.
Oh, yeah. In all of football.
Right.
Another question for you from one of our followers, Munoz. He says, were you friends with, I'm sure this is probably because we're seeing Mongo getting inducted here, better late than never, but were you friends with Steve McMichael?
I could say we were teammates. We didn't go out to eat. He was on defense, I was on offense. So that was a big divisional line between everybody, right? but we respected each other, and you know, like I said, we were teammates, but we didn't share Sunday dinner together by any means. But it's very unfortunate what Steve's going through right now, and you know, I'm sure you could trace a lot of that back to football and all that's there. But you can only wish the best for him and his family, whatever the outcome may be.
But
Yeah.
it seems like the 85 Bears are just as popular today as they were in 1985. They're probably still regarded as the best defense ever play football. How would you describe that 85 Bears team in one word?
Well, it's I think chemistry is a big thing, right? And so we had a chemistry from the coach, and then there's a lot of animosity too, because Buddy Ryan, he created a very divisional line between the two sectors of the team. If you're on offense, he didn't care about you. He wouldn't even say anything to you. But if you played defense for Buddy, it was made. So and Mike Ditka and Buddy Ryan, they didn't like each other. But at the end of the day, with all the personalities and all the conflict and all that, we still had the ability to come together on Sundays for one common goal, and that was to win the game. So there's a lot to be said about that. But like people like Matt Nagy used to say, well, even though we're getting beat, our locker room's in good shape, right? Our locker room was a mess. It was a disaster. And that's not towels and uniforms laying around. That's personalities and people. And oh my God, it was unbelievable. So yeah, I think that's an overused statement.
Yeah,
Locker room's in good shape. I think that's a bunch of bullshit,
With Ditka setting the tone, I can imagine.
Right. So it was, it was crazy, but it was good. Yeah.
Guys,
I would love to be a fly on the wall there.
I want to give a couple of shout outs, guys, first of all, to our chat. We got Squeegee in the chat, Patty, Cliff, Dustin, Scottish Bear, coming all the way from Scotland. Wow. Thanks, Scottish Bear. It's awesome.
There you go.
Michael's here tonight. Obviously, Munoz, as I said earlier, and then CSP, as always, AC Adam, as always, guys. And then I do want to give a shout out to one of our sponsors, guys, Bridges Scoreboards, your Northwest Indiana Chicago sports headquarters, with the Hall of Fame menu and the coldest beer in Chicagoland. I mean, you can't argue with that, right?
They got a good perch dinner too.
You know what? I didn't try. I keep hearing about the fish, and when I went there, I got wings. I really should have tried the fish. I love perch.
I think that's what Jim I think Jim Osborne got the fish when we were there.
Yeah.
Perch is like a fail-safe, honestly.
That's in Griffith, right? Yeah.
Griffith,
Griffith.
Yeah. Just outside Hammond.
You have any experiences at Bridges?
I did a couple things there. I think one of the owners, is it Jeff maybe? There's two brothers. And they had a sports show. I did that down there. And then they had a summer event with they do a lot with the Bears. And they had that awful band, the Chicago Six, play down there. Oh my God. They were awful. And
so your memories in Platteville, I got some wonderful pictures here from Platteville. Give me some of your most fondest memories of what I heard was a wild time back in Platteville, Wisconsin.
Platteville was like totally out of control, right? And it was like, most people probably hated going to training camp. We looked forward to training camp because it was like, we worked hard and we played hard and we partied hard for 6 weeks, and all the capers that went on up there, it was unbelievable, and of course, my dear friend Jim McMahon and all that. And it was a lot of fun, I'll tell you. And it was, Dick might have thought it was good to get us away, but then he was good. Like, we got to get him out of Platteville because they're going to tear this town up, right? So Platteville was that was fun.
That's amazing.
It was good. It was good. You got to remember, we had 6 weeks of doubles with 4 preseason games.
Yeah.
And every practice was padded, right? I mean, it was crazy. So it was survival of the fittest,
When the NFL was real.
Yeah, right. I mean, it was a bloodbath. It was tough, but that's why we drank so much beer. Had to kill the pain.
Yeah, I know after your playing career, you ended up going back and coaching at the East Aurora. What did you try to instill your players as a coach?
Well, my son wanted to get involved in youth football, and so I took him to the youth thing, and I talked to a couple dads, and one guy never played, another guy played a little, and I go, well, you mind if I help out? Because I want to make sure my son had a good experience, right? So he was really the one that got me involved. So going with him through his whole career from youth football to grade school football, and then when he went to high school, he went to Marmion Academy in Aurora, which is a very good school. And then he ended up going to Miami of Ohio, and his name's Garrett. So I said, hey, Garrett, I said, you want me to apply for a job at Miami, Ohio? And he said, no, I think it's time me and you part ways. So, so then I went to, a friend of mine said, hey, East Aurora, they need a coach. East Aurora, when I grew up there, was probably one of the best programs in the state at the time. And it truly diminished to nothing, right? So I said, well, I'll see what I can do. And so a lot of those kids, first of all, there wasn't hardly any kids, I mean, I went to a game and the kids are coming off the bench and eating hot dogs in the stands with their friends during the game. I'm like, whoa, wait a minute here. So seeing that, the type of kid it was bigger than the game of football, and these kids all come from, hard times and broken homes and, all that. So I was going to, there's no question that the game of football changed my life. And so I wanted to give these kids the opportunity to help change their lives through the game of football, right? And a lot of that is stuff that don't even go on the field. It's those core values, right? It's the commitment and sacrifice, teamwork, and all that stuff, discipline, and all those core values that make you as a person. And so, I got involved with the kids, and it was a moving. They hadn't won a game in like 8 years. And that's a long time,
yeah.
Right? And so, recruiting kids and getting them out and making them go to class and, doing the right thing that I learned, which, I think is the right way, the discipline, the hard work and all that. So, getting the kids and changing their attitudes and getting their commitment going. And, when we finally won a game, there wasn't a dry eye anywhere, even the big coach was crying for the kids, so, but, so it was bigger than winning games. It was really trying to mold them into taking pride in what they do. And then, the final piece was that I truly believe is, you want to give the community something to be proud of. Our stadium, it was called Roy Davis Field, was one of the first stadiums in Northern Illinois that had lights, to play night football. And it was in shambles. I mean, it was horrible. And it was run down, beat down. And you can't have pride, right? So, I worked hard and twisted a lot of arms, but we ended up building a $10 million stadium over there on the east side of Aurora. And it gave the community a rallying point, right? It gave them something to be proud of. And the kids, look at it and go, man, I hope someday I can play there, And so it's been good. It was really, really good.
That's awesome, man. Thanks for sharing that.
When I said I wanted to change their lives through the game of football. They did the opposite. They changed my life. How do you like that? So
that's a pretty inspirational story, honestly.
Yeah.
it was
Next, so you're going to coach. You could coach in the NFL soon, right?
Would I coach in the NFL? No. They don't want to listen to nobody. They don't care. I think they're non-coachable.
That's a different game.
Yeah, it's a total different game, and I get that things have to evolve in order to survive. Football had to evolve. It's evolved over the 100 years or whatever. But, in the evolution of the game from the 80s, 70s and 80s, when I played to where it is now, the biggest difference I see now is it's more of a skills game than a violent game. And they've taken the violence out of the game. I happen to like the violence, being a lineman. I happen to like that. So, they've really changed the way the game is played. I mean, one of the telltales, nobody wears any pads anymore. We had to pad every part of our body because we used every part of our body to block. Now, these guys got shoulder pads that look like two little peas on their shoulders. And, they don't have no hands, no nothing. They don't even wear knee pads, and so less equipment tells me something's going on, and they don't wear much anymore. That's for sure. So it's a hands game. It's a skills game,
Yeah,
That's the Smashmouth.
And it didn't just change the way it's played. It's changed a lot for the viewer too.
Well, the viewer wants to see touchdowns, right? They want to see scores.
Yeah.
So they tilted the rules for that.
Yeah, they kind of translate.
I'm with you, Kurt. I like the violence, man. I think a lot of guys like to see the big hits.
They kind of directed us from big hits, and
I'm with you, Kurt, too. I like the violence.
Right. I mean, I love smoking somebody, or you get smoked yourself, right? You're like, oh shit, right? But I like that. But nowadays,
you'd be up for a month.
Yeah, we're never going to see a segment on here called Jacked Up.
No, I mean, the game is, like I said, it's evolved, and it's a skills game, and it's interchangeable parts, and not that it's good, bad, or indifferent, but it's just a different game.
Yeah. Well, while we kind of start to discuss today's game, let's talk a little bit about what Ryan Poles is doing with this current Chicago Bears team this upcoming 2024 season. We're obviously trying to attempt to design the franchise's second Super Bowl winning championship team. What do you like about what Chef Poles has done so far in building this club?
Well, he's addressed certain areas of need, right? I mean, they had 22 positions of need 2-3 years ago. So they slowly went into the free agency market. They created 1-year deals. We've had the very fortunate draft position, right? So, and free agency. So the direction, I mean, there's no question they're going to be better. They have to be. But, once again, he's kind of molded everything towards the way the game is being played, which is smart, right? You got a quarterback that can throw it, and he's got some weapons. I mean, I like Justin Fields. I wasn't a Justin Fields fan, but I'll defend him for the fact that I think it's a part A and a part B. I think Justin Fields failed the Bears, but I think the Bears failed Justin Fields also.
Agree 100%.
At that level, you need a solid support system. And he didn't have that, So it's a little hard to throw a harsh judgment at him, because when you go through a couple head coaches and 2 or 3 offensive coordinators and 2 or 3 different schemes in that short amount of time, that's not a good support system. So hopefully they can get some stability. They got this new guy from Shane something, I think his name
Shane
is.
Waldron.
Yeah, from Seattle. And, they kept Everflus. So, but the key is you have to have a solid office. You got to have a solid coaching staff, and you got to be able to provide that support for the kids coming in. So I think that's important. And if they can keep that continuity, they should be better.
That's well said, Kurt. Well said.
Kurt, I want to ask you a question. You talked a little bit about the line drawn between defense and offense, even in practice back when you were playing. Do you think today is the same kind? Do you think it's different? Do you think offense and defense have the same intensity towards one another during practice as they did back in the
80s? The problem with practice nowadays is it's all controlled by the union, players union. They tell you how long you can practice. They tell you what days you're practicing, and they tell you what you're going to wear during practice. So as a coach, you have to adhere to the union policies, which is a little tough, right? So, it's a different game. And like I said, it's a different approach from the weight room to nutrition to, their learning experiences. So probably some are better, obviously. And then, you can differ on some other. But as a coach, I would hate to be a head coach because, you're hampered by the players union telling you what you can and can't do. And that's, that's a little tough to stay in those guidelines.
Do you think that's the reason we have some slow starts to these seasons? Just because they're not padded and they're not practicing as hard as they used to?
Well, at the end of the day, I said earlier, we had 6 weeks of doubles and 4 preseason games. And those were all, there was no days off, right? So if you got through that, you were pretty well conditioned for the regular season, right? And I think, the only way to really get your body ready and your mind ready is to play football.
Yeah.
And you have to absorb those hits and give hits and take hits because, you have to condition your body that, for a car wreck, that's what it is. And,
you got to get that first layer of bruises on there.
Right. You got to toughen up. So, not to play during the preseason, I don't know. I think you got to play. And, okay, the injury thing, and it's a risk and reward, right? Somebody's going to get hurt. That's just the way it is, It's a tough game for tough kids. And, you get banged up and you just got it. And that helps you get better. It calluses you more for the season.
It seems there was less injuries when you guys were playing as opposed to now in the first 4 to 6 weeks of the season. So it makes a lot of sense being more prepared and ready.
Well, it's just like baseball, pitcher. They're pulling a pitcher after 60 pitches, right?
Yeah.
Come on. You got no hitter going in the 7th and you're going to sit down because you threw 70 pitches.
Yep.
They start the pitchers before anybody else.
Right. And those guys are getting blown up right and left too right now. So, but I think that, you got to get calloused up for the game and not to play that's a tough one because, you got to get game ready.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
In regards to the modern day NFL and a little more about this current Bears team, do you believe that the offensive line that Poles has put together is good enough to protect Caleb, but also good enough to take this team to a playoffs? Because I think that's the biggest looming question still for this current Bears team is, have they done enough to the offensive line and the defensive line to be as good as the best team in their division?
Well, I have some views that, I think playing offensive line nowadays is much easier than it was when we were playing because, we spent numerous hours on working on blocking rules, right? And then as soon as the defensive guy moved, the rules and everything changed. And so we spent a lot of time with rules and calls and this and that. And then, as the game evolved, they went to a zone run block, right? So it's a combination on the front and it's a combination on the back, right? And so, you're stretching the offense out and you're finding a seam. You're not moving people, you're creating seams. And so, those running backs are small little dudes nowadays, right? And they can get through a crack. Shifty, right? And so giving them that seam and their ability to read it is where it really goes. But we were moving people, and so they create seams on the front side now in zones, and then they shut off the backside. And getting to the second level is the key, the linebacker flow. But in regards to blocking, I think it's a lot easier. They simplified it. And for sure, the pass game, because if a quarterback holds the ball more than 2 seconds in today's offense, he's not doing his job, right? I mean, I can come out of my stance and stand in front of you and eat up 2 seconds. So, and that's where Justin Fields really struggled, is he couldn't get rid of that ball. He couldn't process it out. But the successful offenses nowadays, they're getting rid of that ball in 2 seconds. They want to get it in their skilled athletes' hands as quick as possible. So that has really changed. The pass blocking has changed a lot.
So, Kurt, what's a day in the life of Kurt Becker these days?
Well, the day in the life of Kurt Becker, it's pretty interesting because, number one is workout, right? I really want to take care of myself. It's like that old Tom Petty song, "The Sins of Our Youth," right? So I'm trying to erase a few of them. And so I work out, I'm limited in what I can do, obviously, because, my physical ailments. But my health is really, really important to me, And then, I play a little golf, which is, more outing than anything else, which is fun. And and then I have a bar in a small little town of Sandwich, Illinois. And,
no kidding.
Right, I have a little sports bar down there, and it's all good. And so I go down there during the days, check it out, see what's going on, and then do a little travel. So.
What's the bar called?
I was just going to ask that.
The bar is called Sports Page Gaming, and it's in Sandwich, Illinois. And I just had Jim McMahon down there, and he did autographs, And I'll tell you what, I mean, I love Jim like a brother, I really do. But he is one crazy cat, man. He is. He's nuttier than ever.
So we've heard.
Oh, he's out there, and I love him to death. I really do. But
pretty sure he wore a Bears jersey to the with the Packers Super Bowl ceremony.
Yeah, right. I mean, anything he would do would not surprise me. Him and I were like roommates on the road for 7 years. So but he is.
There's got to be some stories from that.
He's something else. I shake my head. I like I said, I love him to death. Some people try to act crazy, and then other dudes are just plain ass crazy. He's just plain ass crazy.
So we know what Jimmy Mack is.
Right. I mean, when you show up your first day, you're the first round draft pick, and you got Budweiser in your hand, kind of sets the tone, right? Right.
While we're
That's
on
why
the
we love
topic
them.
of sports bars, I want to invite you all out to Chicagoland's most delicious and fun sports dining experience. Head to River Street Tavern, located at 102 River Street in East Dundee. Open Tuesdays through Sundays, guys. Kyle DePlacy, our co-host himself, will tend bar for you. He'll serve you a cocktail. He's been doing it for a long time. It is his craft. Kurt, get out to River Street if you ever get a chance. Kyle, our man here, will be serving you drinks.
Wasn't there Benito Barney's up there?
Yeah, that's right next door.
Right next door.
And then there was that old supper club called the Anvil Club. That was
they just closed.
Yeah.
Did they really?
It's a Mexican restaurant now.
But I've been up there a few times.
Yeah, Jim Osborne lives right down the street. Actually, I think he's in Algonquin, so he goes the opposite. To Emmett's up there all the time. Emmett's is like that old brewery.
Okay, yeah.
Kurt, you spent a career protecting quarterbacks, so I got to ask the question. I'm sure everybody's hoping we do tonight. What do you feel about Caleb Williams? Was that the quarterback that you wanted the Bears to draft?
Well, I didn't really watch him in college, so because you get oversaturated with the media that everything presents, so but obviously listening to him, he does say the right things, if it is true what he says, then obviously he's on the right track for success. But once again, if we would have drafted Patrick Mahomes, would Patrick Mahomes be who he is today?
No, absolutely not.
Right. And that goes back to the support system, right?
Yeah, got to have infrastructure. Yeah, 100%.
So if they can have the support system and work with them, they gave him weapons, right?
Yeah.
He should have there's not a reason why he shouldn't have a level of success. So, but to say, the conference is tough, right? Detroit, Green Bay. So, you got to go at least 500 or better. And I think the schedule is in our favor. So, if you made it to the playoffs with a wild card, it'd even be better. But the journey is a lot tougher than people think it is. One or two injuries changes the whole dynamics, right? You lose a receiver, you lose a running back, and then defensively you got to be able to stop people. But I think their best draft choice of the year was the punter from Iowa.
I knew you were going to say.
There's a guy. He's a generational player, right? He'll be there 10 years. He punts the ball like them guys hit golf shots in the PGA, right? And he can flip the field for you, which is a big difference, right? It's a lot easier on your defense when they start behind their own 10-yard line instead of on the 40-yard line. So I think he's a really, really important tool, that they got. And people are like, a lot of chatter about it, but they don't realize, how important that piece is.
Well, yeah, and after all that chatter came out, there was 3 or 4 teams that came out and then basically announced that they were upset that the Bears took him because they were going to take him right after the Bears did. And
right.
The Bears snaked him.
But he was good. It'll be good to see. But he does shit with a football like, holy cow. And I watched a little Iowa football, so, it was good. But, you expect, Caleb and Roman, those kids to be good, but this kid can be a sudden impact kid for you. So that's good.
Yeah, if you can get the best player at any position in the draft in the 4th round, you shoot, right? Aim for the sky.
We had Kevin Butler and Maury Buford. That was our kicking squad.
Kevin Butler, man.
Yeah, Maury Buford. He was
still winning great.
Right. So, at the end of the day, I love the Bears. I hope them nothing but success. I like the McCaskey family a lot. I respect them who they are. And, I would like to see, I'd like to see them, get some victories where, they deserve it. Knowing the McCaskies, I think their one big attribute is their loyalty to their employees, but also that can be detrimental too, because, their loyalty sometimes overshadows lack of performance of them, and they don't like getting rid of employees, but, at the end of the day, if you can't do the job, you got to go.
That's right.
Yeah, it's hard to find a happy medium between loyalty and necessity, right?
Right. It's a two-way street, right? So, but I do hope that, obviously they get better. I'm going to go to London and watch. Who are we playing in London again?
Jacksonville.
Yeah. So I went there when we played the Raiders, and that was a lot of fun. So we're going to go back and watch it again.
Maybe you'll bump into Sean out there. Sean was talking about maybe going out there.
I'm going to try. We'll see. Only time will tell. But
it was, they play at that soccer stadium, Tottenham, I think that's how they say it.
Yep. Yep.
And, it's in a soccer community. So all the streets around it are just pubs, right? And people all over the streets. And it was crazy. And a beautiful stadium inside. I
You'll
mean,
probably see some Tory Taylor jerseys.
right. And it was, I got to tell you, though, it was, it made Soldier Field look like a garbage can that it is.
Those stadiums do.
Yeah, those European soccer stadiums are amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Right. So that should be good.
Kurt, just a minute ago, you talked about your love for the Bears. So I have to ask, in '82, when the Bears called your number, what kind of dream was realized for you at that moment? Being a kid from Aurora.
Well, it was for me, all I wanted was an opportunity, right?
Sure.
And then to have an opportunity with Chicago Bears, I was like, I love it, So it was good. It was great for me. It was great for my friends. It was great for my family, and to be able to be part of all that and then, have the 85 team and all that, very blessed, very fortunate through the situation. But, there was no other team I'd rather be with than the Bears because I understood it. Like I said, I go back and talk about tradition, right?
Yeah.
Jacksonville wasn't around back then, but
Right.
you got drafted by Jacksonville. Okay. But any of the original teams are great, right? If you would have been Washington or Detroit or Pittsburgh or the Giants, those were the original teams, and that's what built the product. Green Bay, that's what built the product. So I was very, very, very blessed and very happy that it all worked out that way.
Yeah. That one year you ended up in Minnesota. How was that for you? I know you came back to Chicago, but
it was awful. So here's the deal.
Happy to hear.
Here's the deal. So in '87, I think it was, the Bears were done with me and Jim McMahon, right?
Yeah.
So they sent McMahon to San Diego. So they send me to Green Bay. Now, back then, there wasn't free agency. So you played against the same guys your whole career, right?
Yeah.
So they hated me. I hated them. I got in a fight every other play. It was awful. So I called my agent. I said, hey, you got to get me out of here, right? So he goes, okay. So he calls me up. He goes, I got you out of here tomorrow. You're going to a new team. I go, great. Where am I going? He goes, Minnesota. It's Minnesota. What are you, nuts? Right? Same thing. They hated me. I hated them. Got in a fight every other play. It was awful, right? So I call him up. I go, look, you got to get me out of here. He goes, okay. So he calls me up the third day. He goes, guess what? I got another team for you. I go, okay. So he goes, Los Angeles Rams with John Robinson, right? And I knew John Robinson from SC. Yeah. So, I come from Mike Ditka where you hit every day, full pads. It's a grind. Go out there to Johnny Rob, jersey, no pads, and a baseball hat. That was how we practiced. I said, man, this is vacation, right? So I'm out there, and about 2 days later, McMahon calls me. He goes, dude, are you out on the West Coast? I go, yeah. I said, he goes, I'm coming up. So he came up in a limo, and, we reunited again. So it was good.
Chopped it up. That's awesome.
Exactly. So I spent a year there, and then I came back, and, the Bears brought me back in free agency, which was called Plan B back then. And then I spent my last 2 years with the Bears. So it was good. Yeah.
That's great. I'm glad to hear Minnesota was awful.
It was awful.
That more than Green Bay.
like everybody says, oh, you must hate Green Bay. And I'm like, not really, because when we were playing, they were irrelevant, right?
Right.
The two most winning coaches against the Green Bay Packers was George Halas and Mike Ditka.
Yep.
So, they weren't no factor at us. We didn't care,
Hopefully we can add Matt Eberflus to that list.
Well, yeah, it's going to be a tough road. You know, our nemesis was San Francisco. You know, the 49ers. And
Oh, our history against them is very, very ugly, especially in the 80s. My
right.
Lord.
Well, when they came in here and beat us in the NFC Championship, you know, it was like, ooh. But
That was a wake-up call, but what did you say that was the catapult to 85?
well, that was after 85. I'll tell you, the catapult for us was in 84 when we played the Oakland Raiders in Soldier Field.
Okay.
And they were the defending Super Bowl champs. And that was one of the most violent, bloodiest games I ever played in my life. I mean, they were hauling dudes off every other play. I mean, it was crazy, but we won that game, and that was the game that's okay. We got the juice now, you know.
Thanks.
Well, I hate to ask you, Kurt, but I have to ask, how did Dan Marino and the Miami Dolphins get the best of the 85 Bears?
Well,
Thank you,
I
Kurt.
think, you know, I think we had some injuries going into that game, but I think Buddy Ryan got out coached, right? And he couldn't handle, you know, Mark Duper and Marino and all those guys. Our scheme wasn't that well, and you know, we hadn't faced a passing attack like that, right? And we were off on offense, and so you know, we got beat. But it was probably, you know, it's bigger. Everybody thinks going undefeated is like a milestone, but it's to me, it's not where you start; it's where you finish, right?
That's right.
You know, when you finish in New Orleans and win the Super Bowl, well, that's the ultimate goal.
I think Tom
Well,
Brady.
sir, it did deter your confidence because I believe the Super Bowl Shuffle came out a week after
Right
that
after
game?
that.
Right. Well, we were the Black and Blues Brothers. That's who we were. We didn't shuffle around. So, but you know, it was yeah, the publicity thing just took off like crazy, and you know, it still is. So there's a big infatuation with the '85 Bears.
Yeah.
I mean, I have kids come out. Oh, I go, son, you weren't even born till 2000. What do you know about the '85 Bears? You know,
That's still the greatest defense of all time. I mean, they the 2 playoff shutouts that'll probably never be done again.
and there are a lot of '85 Bear babies too. There's a little celebration after the game, right? So, like war babies, you know, Super Bowl babies.
Well, a lot of little Kurtz and Walters walking around after that year.
Right.
Kurt Trax wanted to apologize personally, but thank you as well for being on tonight. And we all want to thank Trax for his persistence and getting you on the show tonight to spend some time with us personally on a Monday. I know we've kept you on here for about an hour now, and I know you're probably ready to get to bed. But yeah, just a blessing to share some stories with you and hear about that 85 team, and just especially the Aurora coaching experience and everything, man. Just want to say thanks a lot for spending some time with us tonight.
It's no problem. Like I said, I enjoy the game of football, you know, and you know, the game changed my life, right? So I'm ever indebted to the game. And, you know, people go, well, you know, because if you play long enough, you're going to suffer from aches and pains, right? That just goes with the territory. And they go, well, if you knew then what you know now, would you play? And I go, are you crazy? I'd do it 10 times over, right? So it's a great game. And, you know, it just presents so many opportunities for people within the industry, you know, and they can be life altering opportunities. And at the end of the day, you know, they always, you know, they'd ask Bo Schembechler about, you know, they'd ask, hey, coach, what's this team going to be like? And he goes, I don't know. Ask me in 10 years. And they go, 10 years? What are you talking about? He goes, well, I'm going to see how these guys turn out in 10 years. Are they going to be good citizens? Are they going to be good fathers? Are they going to be leaders? Are they going to be, you know, solid people within the community? If they are, then it's a successful team. So that's pretty powerful.
Yeah, that's awesome insight.
That's awesome.
That's one of the coolest things I think I've ever heard from a coach in any sport, to be honest, because that is the most important thing at the end of the day. And I hate to bring it up in today's game. You know, you see a lot of not so much role models. So it's good to hear, from Schembeck, something like that.
Right. No, it was like, I get it, So and of course he wanted to win like everybody else, but the ultimate goal is, he wanted a program that produced solid men that went out and represented the school, represented themselves, and represented the community in the way they should. So that was good.
Yeah, and
Kurt,
they're role models, youth too.
All right. Well, you guys, man, nice chatting football.
Yeah.
Kurt,
I'll
thank
see
you
you
for your
somewhere
time.
along
I
the
really
line.
appreciate it.
All
Yeah, we
right.
appreciate you then. We appreciate you now, Kurt. Thanks a lot for coming on, man.
And as the famous George McCaskey's famous tagline, "Go Bears!" All right.
Bear it down.
You're always welcome back, Kurt.
All right. See you guys. Thanks.
Thank you.
Kurt Becker, everybody. Wow, that's awesome. I love hearing stories. I love hearing stories from those guys.
Well, that was fun, man.
Yeah, let me catch up some of these. Just give a shout out to some more of these guys in the chat. Squeegee, thanks for being here tonight. Cliff, Dustin, the New Breed 313 Sports. That's the new chatter. I haven't yet seen him. So thanks for joining us tonight. Bears Ski Film, as always. Michael. Michael said this earlier, and I kind of like what he said. We were talking about Mahomes being drafted to that team that Trubisky was drafted to. And I agree 100% with Kurt that Mahomes would not have developed into the pro that he is today. But with Mitch, that team actually had a pretty good season. And he pointed out that we might be talking about one of the best teams since the 2000 or 2016, maybe I think he means.
What's that?
Yeah, the comment, Michael. Actually, think if you planted Mahomes on that 2018 Bears team that Mitch Trubisky played on, which made it to the playoffs with the double doink, might have been one of the best teams since 2000.
I wouldn't disagree with that. That defense was really damn good.
Yeah, it just seems like the Bears just had a long run of a losing culture, and they never really had an infrastructure, and they would bring in the timing was always wrong. Their rebuilds were always kind of backwards. They would do this thing where they brought Bill Polian in to hire a coach, and then they narrowed it down to two different people, and then they hired a GM, and then they hired the president of football operations. It's just unprecedented for most franchises, especially in the NFL. But it seems like Ryan Poles and Kevin Warren are starting to turn this thing around a little bit. But yeah, I think Mahomes had a good 2018 season, but after that,
they've been able to continue it.
Yeah. They might not have survived it. So he might not have survived the Sam Mustipher, Jason Peters, Larry Borum days, guys.
He would have been running like he was in the Super Bowl. His Super Bowl loss. I was off on a year too. That was '83 that the Bears lost to the Niners. Kirk caught me. Not '84. You got Game 7. Edmonton's up 2-0. I know no one cares about hockey, but it is a Game 7, guys.
Oh yeah, I forgot that.
I'm pulling. I want Connor McDavid to win, man. I want Edmonton to win that game. I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah, he's
let me catch up, as Trax would say, guys. I'm paying the bills. I want to thank TC World of Wonders, your headquarters, for all your Dream Chicago sports jerseys and memorabilia, guys. Top of the line gear for the cheapest prices. Also, Underdog Fantasy, the #1 fantasy sports app. Get 5 picks right and mega bank your money by 20 times. As always, guys. Also, the Worth Stadium Club. Cool place to go game, get some food, and have a cocktail. And then Budget Cars as well, guys. Check Budget Cars out. And you guys want to catch up with, read a couple of these comments?
Sure.
What?
Okay. What was he? He said we were the Black and Blues Brothers. What was he referring to? I obviously wasn't around for the '85 season.
The Black and Blues Brothers was a poster that the offensive line put out. The defense of the Junkyard Dogs and the offense of the Blues Brothers.
I gotta check that out.
Hanging on my ceiling in the garage. That's why I pointed up.
I gotta check that out. Okay.
Sounds like Cliff had the same poster, man.
I'm trying to read.
I should have moved the camera towards the ceiling.
Dustin says Kurt was part of the two of the oldest and most heated rivalries in football history. That's pretty awesome. Could you imagine playing on the Bears, then the Packers, then the Vikings?
Yeah, right.
Dustin's comment earlier was awesome. He said, the worst agent ever for sending him to the Packers Vikings. And then he's like, but then he totally redeemed himself. It brought him back to the Bears.
Give me 1 sec, guys. There's supposed to be, Brandon wanted me to discuss something in the overlay, but oh, here it is. Okay. Guys, Kick Cancer is Scott Bridges fundraiser. Scott Bridges of Bridges Scoreboard. It is September 27th, 4 p.m. to midnight. $20 admission includes food, cash bar. I can't read. Jason and Jacques and Scott Negrette, 4:30 to 6:30. The Rack Brothers from 7 to 10. Guys, go check it out. If you're in the area, Bridges, like we say day in and day out, guys. Bridges also has really good food, really fun environment, and 100%. I just 100% sports bar, guys. Good place to watch a game. They have a really big dining room in the back, and
A lot of cool sports memorabilia there to check out too, guys.
I mean, they must like. I can't imagine how many pro players have been in that place with the amount of autographs they have hanging on their wall.
I have to make it out there to one of these shows and check that place out.
Oh, yeah, man, I had a BLT salad when we were out there, and I swear, man, this thing had more bacon than lettuce. It was amazing.
And wasn't the dressing like a bacon garlic dressing or something?
Bacon tomato, yeah, it was delicious, man. That I swear, it was like, would you like some lettuce with your bacon salad? It was like a quarter pound of bacon on there. It was delicious, and the dressing was phenomenal too.
Jay Grizz says I had the Super Bowl poster that year. Looks like Sean still got his Super Bowl shirt from that year. I got a couple of those Bulls throwbacks from the 90s.
Yeah.
You know, with the caricatures, the cartoons. Yeah. I still got a couple
have
of
one of those in a bag somewhere in the basement. I still might. I have a bag full of Bears, Cubs, Bulls T-shirts from like.
I'm pretty sure Bernie and I's mom got us one of those shirts for every single year they won a championship. I mean, we had like
those were the best shirts, though.
Yeah, I still have a few of them.
I don't remember why I threw it on one night when we went to the city, and I was walking into a club, and the bouncer who was checking my ID at the door, and this guy, I mean, mind you, I'm 6 foot tall, at this time 150 pounds. This guy is like 6'6", 285, and he's like, "I'll trade you shirts right now, man." I was like, I don't think I can spend the rest of the night in your parachute over there, buddy. I don't think this will work. So, talking a little, I do want to get a little bit into because I wanted Kurt to obviously tell his story, guys, which was awesome, by the way. Especially, I don't know if he said it he told me before the show, he coached Aurora for 20 years.
Yeah,
that's remarkable. How much that guy's dedicated to the game, how much he dedicated to the Bears, and then to the youth, the Chicago suburban youth. Just remarkable, honestly. I can't imagine.
I love that he says his son was like, he was to his son. He's like, "Do you want me to go coach Miami of Ohio so we can stay?" And his son's like, "No, this is where we part ways," because he didn't want to chaperone while he was partying there. That's what.
You know what? I think someone said in the chat they can make a movie out of that story. They probably could, man. He should be selling his rights. Dustin
said you could make a good movie out of that. Yeah.
I mean, that whole 85 team should each have their own movie, especially Jim McMahon.
Oh God. They had a camera or paparazzi to follow that guy around for a couple of years.
Yeah, imagine social media when Jim McMahon was in his 20s.
Oh, yeah, right.
I don't know if there's any truth behind it, but somebody once told me a story about how he injured his eye. About just the reason he wears sunglasses all the time was because he was trying to get a knot out of his cleats with a fork and it slipped and poked him.
So I do want to dive a little bit into the question, guys. Do you think this offense, because it is, like I said, the looming question of this 2024 season, do we think the offensive line is good enough to give Caleb the time he'll need to take this team to the playoffs?
I think the potential is there. The problem with the offensive line right now is there's just a lot of ifs. You know, obviously, Sean and I were actually talking earlier about Nate Davis. He needs to have a huge bounce back year. If he doesn't, then that's going to be Ryan Pohl's probably second biggest mistake since becoming GM of the Chicago Bears. And then right now, I think it's kind of up in the air who the center is going to be. I think it's kind of like anybody's job to win, but I'm going to assume it's going to end up being Ryan Bates, and I think there's a lot of question marks about him as well. I mean, as far as I can tell, he's been a perennial backup his whole career. I think he had 19 starts at some point, but I mean, there's a reason that the Bills didn't re-sign him. I know the Bills had some salary cap issues, but the center is a pretty important position, and they seemed like they were all right moving on.
One of the things that I was looking at was Waldron's offense, and I think we've talked about this before. Seattle's offensive line was ranked right around the Bears, but Geno Smith was also very successful in that offense. He's very good at moving the pocket, moving arm slots, getting quarterbacks in good positions to succeed. He's also pretty proficient in getting the ball out of there pretty quickly to adequate himself to the deficiencies on the offensive line. So I think we got to just give him a little time, let him work with this, see what he's got. And I have a lot of confidence that Waldron will build plans that'll hide some of the deficiencies in this offensive line if there are any. I think personally, if all 5 guys start and can stay healthy, I think they're going to be pretty solid. Obviously, center being the one question.
Well, and even if you go back and look at like all the individual Pro Football Focus grades for each guy, I mean, the Bears' offensive line probably wasn't as bad as we all thought it was last year. I mean, Justin Fields, and I'm not about to tear down Justin Fields, and the past is the past, but I don't think he did them any favors. Like Kurt just said, you get about 2 seconds in this league to throw the ball, and sometimes with Justin, it felt like 10, 11, 12. I don't know how many times. I don't know about Sean and I watch the games often together, and he knows that I've screamed at his TV a time or two. Please throw the ball, Justin. Please throw it. Just throw it out of bounds.
It seems as if Jay Grizz would agree with you. He said this offensive line gave Justin time last year, and like you said, God, it seemed to improve at the center position. David Kaplan actually said himself that from inside sources, they pretty much told Bates he is the starting center for the 2024 season. Is what I've heard. I don't want to. I'm paraphrasing, but it's interesting though. Coleman Shelton, who played his entire last season on the Rams, the LA Rams, is now a Chicago Bear, the same as Kurt was. Some juncture of his career, played for the Rams and then came back to Chicago. So I wonder if he'd have any words for the young man after playing in LA and coming to Chicago. The weather's a lot different, that's for sure.
Yeah. I would have just say having a rookie quarterback, I probably would have shored that position up with a very good veteran if I wasn't able to get one in the draft. I don't know that I might say that would probably be the biggest failure of this offseason, in my opinion. I know other people might say defensive line, but you got a rookie quarterback, you should have shored up that center position. In my opinion.
I agree 100%. I would have loved to see Danielle Hunter here. I would have loved to see Wilkins here, any of those big free agents. But the one that I think cut me the deepest, the one that hurt the most, was probably Lloyd Cushenberry. There had been speculation or little rumors that the Bears had been talking to him and they'd been discussing contracts, but they didn't pull the trigger, and that one hurt a little bit because, like Sean said, with a rookie quarterback, he's going to need some help with those audibles and adjusting these defenses and these schemes, and a veteran center is important.
Yeah, I don't know if Bates and Shelton fit that, but I mean, like you said, Brandon, he did play with Stafford last year, so I guess we'll see. I guess we'll see on that.
And we don't like speculation, guys. We are about facts on this show, but I don't. It's maybe I hate doing this. Maybe if they're still having trouble with it halfway through the year, if Connor Williams isn't signed by somebody, I don't like throwing out speculative signings, but I could see Ryan Poles giving that guy a call at least.
I think they should go sign him right now.
Yeah, well, you know what? I think you can't fix every hole in the roster in 1 year. I think this is basically going to be a tryout for Ryan Bates as the starting center, and if Ryan Poles doesn't like it, then we have plenty of draft capital next year, and the Bears are still going to be up there in terms of salary cap free agency money. So, you can't. Rome wasn't built in a day, and as long as the Bears are making progress and taking steps forward, and Caleb Williams continues to look better every game, I think they'll be happy. I don't think the goal was ever necessarily to win a Super Bowl in 2024. Now, obviously, that would be absolutely amazing if they did, but it takes time.
Cliff says Caleb's leadership aspect is better than Justin's. No, leadership is not something I ever heard. I never heard anything in regards to Justin's leadership. I don't think he had any issues being a leader. I think the locker room really trusted Justin Fields. I think that's the difference in Caleb and Justin is I don't know that Justin Fields trusted himself. And that's one thing that I think we all know Caleb Williams is more than capable of doing.
I think that first year, I think that Cleveland game ruined Justin Fields, man, personally. I don't think he was the same player ever after that game.
Yeah, I think
We obviously don't want to dive down this hole again, but it's obviously Justin Fields did fill the Bears. He held onto the ball too long. He wasn't quick at processing plays. He wasn't quick at picking up audibles, changing the play at the line of scrimmage. But you know what? He was his first year there. I believe he was thrown to N'Keal Harry, Equanimeous St. Brown, Byron Pringle. His offensive line consisted of Sam Mustipher, Jason Peters at 41 years old,
It was
Larry
pretty bad.
Borum. I mean, there was just no infrastructure there. Like I've said this time and time again, I'm happy the Bears moved on from Justin Fields. I love Caleb Williams. I'm happy he's here, but I really don't think that Justin Fields stood a chance. I think he was just kind of a victim of circumstance. It was really nobody's fault because when Ryan Poles got here, the salary cap was a mess. The roster was a mess. He had to burn it down. He really didn't have an option. I mean, Khalil Mack was eating up almost 30% of their salary. It's just Justin Fields. It was the wrong place, wrong time for him.
And I don't know if people realize his biggest knock coming out of college and why they said he should stay another year was because he held the ball too long. But they drafted him, they put him in a terrible situation and never gave him anybody who can help him improve his deficiency. So a lot of it falls on everybody in this situation.
Yeah, and when you get these Caleb Williams naysayers who are coming out and they're like, oh, a lot of his struggles are similar to Justin Fields. Yeah, Caleb did hold on to the ball a little bit too much in college, and that's been proven because he did fumble too much. But he also is much better at navigating the pocket, and he keeps his eyes downfield all the time. I mean, Caleb Williams is constantly looking for the home run, constantly looking to win the game. Justin sometimes, I don't know about you guys, but to me, it looked at times like he was just trying to save his life.
Well, I think you guys are both right in saying, like, Kyle, you mentioned the lack of talent that Justin had around him, and Sean, you mentioned that he got rocked pretty early in his career. I think as the Bears roster improved, because it did slightly from year to year during Justin's career, I think you were right. I think he had already kind of lost trust in the people around him. Even as they gotten better, I think it was hard for him to find that trust again. Guys, Dustin's asked us a couple of questions. I do want to get on this too. What's your biggest concern about this Bears roster right now? I wouldn't say offensive line. My biggest concern is pass rush. And Kurt said it best. One guy gets injured, changes literally the alternative of the season, like the outcome of the season. If Montez Sweat is injured during this season, I don't know what the hell the Bears are going to do.
Or
even at the top of
any of them
possible injury, I'm still concerned about who's playing across from him if he's healthy all year. To be honest,
we talked about this. The injuries are not if, they're when. If they lose Javon Dexter, if they lose Andrew Billings, if they lose Montez Sweat, this team's going to be in trouble. I agree with you 100%, Brendan. The Bears' biggest hole right now is defensive line, and particularly depth at the defensive line. I mean, I like we all talked about this. Sean's a huge Rock Chalk Jayhawk. I like the Booker signing, but he's a rookie, and it's going to take him time to adjust to the NFL. And I think they're also probably going to add some weight to him as well, and that's going to take some time as well. I was kind of surprised. The thing that surprises me the most is that when Matt Eberflus got here, the first thing he said is this whole defense is ran around the 3 technique. That's the most important part of this defense, and it seems like unless Javon Dexter takes some monumental leap next year, it seems like that they're still looking for that guy. Now, I'm not saying that's not possible. I think Javon Dexter came around at the end of last year and looked really good. But obviously, you'd like to see him play more consistently before you just anoint him the savior of the Chicago Bears, because the 3 technique seems to be the most important player in this scheme. Now, like we talked about earlier,
I think Bruce referred to it as the anchor of his defense.
Yeah, and
the 3 technique.
We've seen it in the same scheme in other places. Aaron Donald's a wrecking ball. What they say that creating pressure up the middle is what disrupts the timing of the offense. And right now, I can't say for sure that the Bears have that guy now, but I do think that Javon Dexter is going to get a lot better this year.
I do agree. I mean, I'm watching him in the offseason. He's putting in the work. I mean, and he did come on at the end of last season. And I'm not going to say this is it. I'm going to throw one name out there. 12.5 sacks his rookie year, Mark Anderson. If my boy from the Jayhawks can do that this year, we're all going to be really happy. Let's go, Booker. Come on.
I still today remember Brendan and I going back and forth. I liked Mark Anderson a lot. Brendan was like, man, these sacks are all gimmies, and there a lot of them were. But
I thought he was left unblocked because there was so many other guys to worry about on that. I thought he reaped the benefits of other people playing well.
I got an autographed jersey. Mark Anderson, 12.5 sacks, rookie year.
Did he write that?
He did. I asked him to. I met him at.
Oh, okay. Well, you asked. I was going to say that's lame. Dustin says, "What's the least? What do you have the least concerns about when it comes to the current Bears roster?" I think everybody's going to say. I think everybody's going to say wide receiver. That's going to be the most common answer. It's probably the most obvious answer. But I'm going to say for the first time
Secondary.
ever, guys, as a Bears fan, I'm going to say the quarterback is my least concern. It really is. It feels like we got it right this time. It feels like we got a guy who's going to grow, a guy who's going to get better, even if it comes out and the going gets tough. If it's rough early, I feel content about not only this upcoming season, but I feel content for the next 5 to 8 years that we've maybe finally gotten this position correct. Puts my mind at ease a little bit because as Bears fans over the offseason, we come in every year thinking, we could be a good team, but we're still not going to have the passing attack that the modern day NFL provides. And I feel like we might actually finally be in the same conversation as some of these offensive juggernauts.
I agree with Sean too. I think currently right now the strongest part of this Bears team would be the secondary and the defensive backs. I mean, it's not only are they deep in the secondary, but I still think a lot of these guys have untapped potential. I think Stevenson has a chance of being the best corner on that team, and that's saying a lot. Playing next to Jalen Johnson. I mean, I think Sean, what was that stat you gave me about Jalen Johnson the other day? I mean, it was astronomical.
Oh, he let up like 176. I don't know off the top of my head. It was like 176 yards and one-on-one coverage last year, which is an unbelievable number. I actually have it on my phone.
He gave up under 200 yards on the season that he gave up to receivers. I mean, that's just amazing, absolutely amazing. And like, I think Kyler Gordon still has room to grow. I think he played well last year. I think he's only going to get better. He's one of the most athletic players in the NFL. And like I said, Tyreek Stevenson seems to be a ball hawk. I think Talon Stevenson kind of gives me Diggs from the Cowboys vibes. Like, he's going to occasionally give up those big plays, but if he can get an interception or two every once in a while, that'll make up for it.
Jay Grooves says in regards to – go ahead.
Oh, no, last year Jalen Johnson, he allowed a passer rating of 33.3 when targeted while allowing a minuscule 195 yards and 0.37 yards per coverage snap. That's insane, folks.
That's Darrelle Revis numbers. That's Darrelle Revis numbers right there, man. It was going to be a Hall of Famer, and that's.
And I hate to say it, Sauce Gardner was actually ranked higher than him, which is almost hard to believe.
Well, yeah, I was just going to say, and that guy was a second-team All-Pro. I don't know what the hell you got to do to be on the first-team All-Pro. Jay Grizz says his concerns are center, right guard, punt returner. We kind of hashed out the center thing already. Just seemed like there wasn't much else available besides Cushenberry, who did get paid. I don't know if Poles wanted to spend the money on a guy that he's not 100% sold on. But right guard, I'm not too concerned about right guard. By everything every source I'm reading, Nate Davis is going to have a better season than he did with a little less going on off the field. But then they also signed an a contingency, right? Isn't Amagaje? Is that how you say his name? Kiran?
I think he's going to be a swing. Or they're going to try anyways.
He's able to play guard though, right? If something doesn't work out, So I think they kind of got themselves a little bit of insurance there. Punt returner, I mean, you'd like to see a little more productivity out of that position. I think there's a lot of guys there.
How about that Ian Mitchell they just signed? I mean,
Ian Wheeler.
Ian Wheeler, yeah.
You took the words out of my mouth. They just actually, he's an undrafted free agent, and the Bears signed him to a 3-year contract already. Deal. Obviously, they see something that I haven't seen yet. I mean, I haven't seen many highlights on Ian Wheeler. I haven't looked him up yet, but there's people who are saying his NFL comparison was Devin Hester. I mean, could anything be more fitting than Ian Wheeler coming to the Chicago Bears and maybe breaking Devin Hester's record?
Whoa.
That would be. I mean, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it would be absolutely amazing.
Why don't you just? Devin Hester's record's never going to be broken now that the league has played the way it is.
Could you imagine?
Hey, records are made to be broken, man. Never say never.
That's true.
Just say that to John Stockton.
Wheeler is regarded as a return specialist, and he does run a 4.340. So, I mean, he's got top-end speed, and apparently he did this really well at the college level. So, check him out.
I'm going to say this. Records are made to be broken, but I feel like once the game changes, some of these numbers might not. Are we ever going to see somebody catch John Stockton with assists in their career?
Yeah,
He's
Tyrese Halliburton.
He's 4,000 assists above the next player below him. 4,000. I mean,
Yeah.
a guy would have to play another how
Okay,
many
can we
years?
say maybe not all records?
Yeah, but I
Yeah.
mean, you guys, we also don't know what is the new kick return going to look off of? Maybe it will look like maybe these guys are going to score touchdowns at a higher rate than they ever have. Maybe it's going to make it easier to break these records. We don't know. We've never seen this before.
But the kick return, the problem with the kick return is it's going to be hard for a guy to gain that speed, that momentum, because he's going to be the kicking team is going to start at the opposing 40. So you're only going to be 20 yards away from the guy who's receiving the ball. It's going to be tough.
Sean was looking at Ian Wheeler's some of his highlights the other day, and he said there's some of the highlights. He was breaking tackles. He was elusive. I mean, he's not just a speed guy. They signed him a 3-year deal for a reason. I think they believe he's going to be pretty special. You never know. I think Roma Dunze also had some good kick returns and punt returns in college. I think he might. That's an option for them if it's something they want to look into. But I think that Ian Wheeler kid's going to be special. To this point, I trust Ryan Poles, and he didn't waste any time getting that kid signed to a 3-year deal. So I'm excited to see him.
It says throughout his pre-draft process, they've shown a lot of attention and love. They seem to have a real plan for my development as an athlete and my ability to potentially impact this team my first season playing. He was a return specialist and covered kicks at Howard and averaged 6.5 yards per carry. Now, it's only playing for Howard, but I mean...
Dustin says if Halliburton never dreams about breaking Stockton's record, he better wake up and apologize. That's one I just don't see. I don't see that one being.
All I'm saying is y'all love all these other players. Everyone's forgetting about what Tyrese Halliburton's doing, dude. He's lighting up the East. I hear everybody else.
It's strange. He doesn't seem to get the same national attention as these guys like Edwards and Jokic and Doncic.
He's on a different tier. He's below those guys.
He's on a what?
He's a tier below those guys, if you ask me.
Yeah, but he's also I believe he's the youngest star ever to lead his team to the conference final.
Right now,
isn't it?
Right now,
23 years old.
I could probably name 25 players that I'd prefer take over a game over Tyler.
Well, I mean, I don't think we're necessarily comparing
the playoffs, bro.
But
I mean, what he did in Game 7,
and Anthony Edwards and Luka Doncic, those guys can literally change the outcome of a game single-handedly. I think Halliburton just fits into a scheme really well, and that's why.
I mean, he just
What's
quarterbacked an offense that scored 67% from the field. I mean, that's right. What he they set a record.
Broke a team record. They just broke a record by a team. That's kind of my point.
Yeah, he quarterbacked that team. I mean, he's the leader, right? He's the point guard. He makes all that stuff.
Listen,
I don't understand all the mislove for Tyrese Halliburton.
I love Halliburton. I wanted the Bulls to draft him over Patrick Williams. I just don't know that I don't place him on that tier. I don't.
God,
Game 7, he
Patrick Williams.
missed 7 total shots, 26 points. He was 50% from 3. He handed off another 6
assists, which
would equate to another 12 points. I mean, the guy does.
It was like 6 of 12 from 3, wasn't it?
Yeah,
I think he shot quite a few. Yes, so there's most of your 7 misses right there. Those 3-point.
All right, we're gonna beat this up now. Then, can I ask you guys? This is my sport. I'll talk this over.
Oh, let's go.
Can I ask you guys a question?
Uh-huh.
Do you think that Indiana team is going to be in the finals or even has a chance to win them?
No.
Oh.
Because
they're missing. Behind. I think the Boston Celtics are the best team in basketball.
Because they're kind of missing what? What are they missing? I think personally they're missing that guy. That's what I think.
They're missing their Giannis.
They're missing that guy. They're missing the guy that when things don't go, because that Carlisle's got that team playing really good basketball. If things don't go the way they're supposed to, they don't have that guy that's just going to say, you know what?
Brennan, would you trade Kobe White? Would you trade Kobe White for Tyrese Halliburton straight up?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
I don't think Kobe White's on the tier I'm talking about either.
Just want to make sure.
I think he's a tier below. I'll agree with that.
You're talking about.
Let me ask you this, Brandon. Does the best team always win?
No.
I'd say in NBA it happens probably more than any other sport.
Well, any game, any sport with 7 game series, of
I
course,
mean, the
better
Nuggets
team usually prevails.
Nuggets were the best team when they won those finals. The Heat were the best team when they won their finals. I mean, honestly, try to
The
think of a
Heat,
lot of teams.
The Lakers were not the best team when they won their finals.
the Heat are a little bit. I mean, that was a pretty special team, wouldn't you say?
Oh,
With three juggernauts.
think about that question. Think about what you just asked me, though. The Warriors were the best team over their dynasty. The Nuggets have been the best team with Jokic. The Miami Heat, when they had LeBron and Dwayne Wade, were the best team in the NBA. Right? Like I think often, yeah, the team does win.
The last championship Golden State won, they were not the best team in the league.
You don't think
The
with
last
Durant and
championship,
Steph
they were
Curry
not
on
the
the
best
same
team in the
team,
league.
Draymond Green, Klay Thompson,
Doesn't
Kevin
matter their
Durant.
record,
Steph
but they were
Curry.
not the best team in the league.
Oh, you're talking about
Their
record.
last championship.
I think the NBA is the
Just
safest.
saying.
I think the NBA is the safest sport to bet a future championship winner on.
No, I wouldn't. You think you would have bet? You bet Minnesota over Denver?
No, this year I don't know. This year I would have bet Boston. That's who I think wins. This year I would have bet Boston, 100%.
Yeah, but
I don't
if
know. I don't
I
know.
would have bet this.
but before the series started, Denver and Minnesota, somebody comes up to you and says, "Hey, I'm going to give you $100. You got to pick one of these two teams. Who are you
Yeah,
picking?"
but that's not what we're talking about. Is does the best team in the NBA win the championship? And I think Boston is the best team in the NBA, and I believe they're going to win the championship. And I
Yeah,
think they would have
primarily yes. Primarily yes, I agree
beat the
that.
Nuggets
But
if they had played them.
every sport, it's not. It's every once in a while that the best team does get. I mean, look at the Boston Bruins last year. I think that team set the record for the best regular season record in the history of the NHL, and then got knocked out in the first round by Florida. I mean, sometimes some teams just can't handle the pressure, injuries, so on and so forth. The best team does not always win in sports, but yeah, obviously, it's sports. You get 5, 7 game series. Primarily, yes, the best team's going down.
I'll say this, Brandon. I do think Boston's going to have a great chance to win it all. I also think Indiana's going to give them everything they can handle in this series.
I just think of a team with 13, like 15 now after COVID, primarily 13 players on a roster. The best team is more often going to win than not, as opposed to like the Chiefs were not the best team in football, even remotely close to the best team in football, but they have the best guy playing the most important position, right?
Correct.
The best quarterback can often win a Super Bowl, but the best team
Yeah,
in the NFL.
it's kind of like a Tyrese Halliburton.
I
I'm
don't
just
think,
kidding. No,
Hey, man,
I'm not comparing Tyrese Halliburton's skill set to Patrick Mahomes.
Dustin says the moral of the story is Pacers are losing in 5. Yeah.
I got you on that, Dustin. They're going at least 6.
Who do you guys got in the West?
Minnesota in 6.
Brandon?
I want Dallas to win. I think right now Minnesota's. I don't know. That matchup, that's going to be a game 7 because you got a Wolves team that's phenomenal at defending the paint, but the Mavericks don't play in the paint. They play in the perimeter. You got to be really good defending the perimeter, and Luka's going to do Luka. You know that. So
What Anthony Edwards has done with that team. I mean, obviously it's a team sport, like you said, but that team was ranked 17th in the regular season in offense efficiency. They're coming in the playoffs ranked number 1 for the last 3 weeks.
I mean,
they
do
are
you
on
think Carl
fire.
Anthony Towns
It's not always who you play; it's when you play them. And that
and
team
Carl
is
Anthony
they're
Towns? I
rolling.
mean, somebody needs to call him and find out where he is because I don't know what's going
I'll
on.
tell you this: if they play defense like they did in the second half, and they did most of the season, Dallas is in big trouble. They're suffocating. Dude.
Yeah, I mean they have the defensive player of the year.
I will say this,
multiple years.
and I showed this to Kyle earlier on a little video. That press conference with Anthony Edwards, where him and Towns are sitting at the table. Go back and watch that. Right after they're saying "F those 9 years," look at Anthony Edwards' hand. It's completely wrapped and bandaged up, and it's his right hand. I don't know what this means. There's no reports out, but go watch that video. His hand is 110% bandaged. That changes everything for me. I'll take Dallas if there's anything wrong with Edwards.
No, that would be the smart bet for sure.
I would imagine if it was something severe, we would have already heard about it. It'd probably be all over.
I don't think they have to say anything until 24 hours before the game.
Yeah.
I think watching Luka Doncic versus Anthony Edwards, no matter who wins the series, is going to be incredible. I think that's the series to watch. I think the Celtics. Yeah. I think the Celtics do. I agree with Dustin. I think the Celtics beat up on the Pacers. Like I said, I think the Celtics are the best team in basketball. It's a different brand of basketball. It doesn't matter.
I agree 100%.
Offensively, there's there's no match for that team. They
I mean, the
just
Celtics have been pretty much been the best team in basketball all season. It's
I
the
think they
question
went on
now
like
is if, for once in the Celtics last 5-10 years, can they finish the job? That's the question, because the Celtics have been a good team for quite a while now. They just always seem to choke at the end of the season. They're like the Lamar Jackson or Kirk Cousins of NBA teams.
Guys, we do have a Bears question pop back up. Gregory Stevens, thanks for being in the chat. It's the first time I've seen him. With the Bears, can any team cover everyone? Swift, Johnson, everyone can catch at a high rate. That's going to be tough. I've said this before I said this before in the podcast that I think this Bears offense is going to kind of change. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but it feels like it's going to be. How do you cover how do you cover those three receivers?
Yeah,
I'm not worried about anybody else. How do you
I'm
cover
with
all these receivers? You can't
I'm
play.
with you, man. I think defense is playing the Chicago Bears this year. Basically, the defensive coach will probably start the meeting with, "Hey guys, so all we can do here is minimize the damage. Just minimize the damage. You know, if you double up DJ and you're like, oh, we can't let DJ Moore beat us, then
Well, how do you approach it?
Keenan
You
Allen's on
approach it.
single cover.
You approach man, zone, cover two, cover. What do you do?
I think the defenses will have to make adjustments throughout the season because it's going to be a tough assignment no matter where you are.
And as much as I don't necessarily love the layout of the Bears schedule, since they bunched up all those division games late in the season, it is nice to have those easier teams, those easier games early on in the season, so that Caleb and Rome can start to build some chemistry. Because if Rome gets going and he's playing like a veteran in week 8, 9, the Bears are going to be really, really tough to beat, really tough to stop.
And then another thing that I think is overlooked too, and obviously it's not something we want to see a lot, but just because Justin Fields is no longer the quarterback of Chicago Bears, we talk about all the options that Caleb Williams has to throw the ball to or hand off to. Caleb's a threat. I mean, if you let Caleb out of the pocket, he's got a big lower body. That guy can take off, man. He's durable. He's not easily injured. So I
said this a couple.
So imagine throwing that, that spy-like defense. You have to keep an eye on the quarterback. So imagine you've got to keep a player grounded to watch Caleb Williams to make sure he doesn't take off and burn you. Well, you've got three guys that all could literally probably be double covered. That's why I'm saying this Bears offense is going to be probably different from anything I think we've ever seen. Definitely in Chicago. It's just there is no one man that you can leave and be like, don't worry about. Like the Bears always had a player where it's like when Tyler Scott was on the field, it was like, I'm not too concerned. Let him. But it's just you don't have that guy. You can't leave any of these players without the attention they need. It's just not gonna work out for you. And I think Adunze, because of how established Moore and Allen already are, Adunze might start burning people quickly, honestly.
Well, I'll tell you, the Bears can do something that most teams can't. They can run an 0-1 personnel, and then they can slide DJ Moore into the backfield, use him as a running back, use him on a sweep play where you still got 3 wide receivers. I mean, there's so many options. The Bears start doing that, defenses they're not going to have any options. They're not going to be able to cover this team.
Well, and you're right, Brandon. I mean, Caleb Williams he's no scrub when it comes to rushing the football. His Heisman season 2022, he had 10 rushing touchdowns. He kind of actually, his running style actually does kind of remind me of Patrick Mahomes. They're both very very strong lower bodies. They're both really big guys, and it's like almost those pedestrian runs, where you're like, oh, Caleb gained 8 yards there, he gained 6, but then you look up at the end of the game and it's like 8 rushes for 60 yards. You're like, where did that come from? Like, I think that's kind of the style of runner that he's going to be. I don't think you're going to see those Justin Fields 70-yard running over people, outrunning people type runs. But he doesn't have to do that.
What he provides differently from Fields too is, once Fields tucked once Fields tucked the ball, the defense knew this guy's running the ball. We got to they attack the ball, right? Yep. Caleb's going to keep people on his heels because until he crosses the line of scrimmage, you're going to have to view that guy as a passer.
Everything's still a threat.
And it's like Sean said last week on the Friday show. I mean, he may tuck the ball, but you got to watch Caleb Williams' arm angles. He can throw that ball from anywhere. literally anywhere. He's
And
one of the most
you're not
he has
going to
one
be
of the
able
most gifted arms in the NFL. Immediately, can he put it
I
together
agree
between
with
the
that.
years? That remains to be seen. But
and you're not going to be
his
able to
arm,
approach him as a ball carrier until he crosses the line of scrimmage, which is going to buy him
Correct.
time. And that's just something Justin Fields did not have on his
Could
side.
not do.
As soon as he got out of the pocket, defenses immediately viewed him as the runner. That's just and that's the
and
reputation he built for himself.
people like to talk about Caleb's mistakes in college. Like we've talked about this on the show before too. Caleb Williams a lot of times was trying to win the game. He was trying to win the game all in one play because I don't think he had very much help. His offensive line was not very good. His receivers are okay, but not great. I think the first receiver from USC was drafted in the 7th round. He doesn't have to do that in the Chicago Bears. First of all, he's probably going to have a little bit more time. Second of all, he's throwing to 3 of the best receivers, possibly if Rome Odunze ends up being what we all think he's going to be, possibly 3 of the best receivers in the NFL, and they're all on one team. And then you can't forget about Cole Kmet, Gerald Everett, and then DeAndre Swift out of the backfield. I mean, I'm not saying this is a biased Bears fan. This is the most dangerous Chicago Bears team we have ever seen take the field.
Too, from earlier, we were talking about, some of his college stuff, and people just got to remember, I think the only player drafted from USC besides Caleb Williams was Rice, the receiver, in the 6th round. I mean, he was playing on a really, really bad team. Yeah, it might have been the 7th round.
No, the Packers, the Packers,
really bad team.
Packers
he's not playing on that kind of
back.
team next year.
The Packers took their running back, I think, in like the 4th round.
I actually really like that running back too, Marshawn Lloyd.
Yeah, the Packers drafted him.
I kind of really do like him.
4th or the 5th, I think. Yeah, no, he's going to be a.
Which is kind of silly when you sign Josh Jacobs, but I do really like the kid. I think he's pretty talented.
Real quick, what do you guys? It sounds like the Bears have all been picked for Hard Knocks. What do you guys think about that? Do you guys like that?
I hate it. I don't want the distraction with the rookie quarterback here. I'd rather just leave everything the way that it is, mystery. I don't want to be on Hard Knocks. I really don't.
I believe that they have the off-season one, and then they're going to do the in-season. I think the Bears are definitely destined to get one of them at some point.
We're going to find out soon. They said the announcement's going to be in the next couple of weeks, so we're going to find out.
I don't think it'll affect the Bears' play really. I mean, the NFL does it; they do it. I don't know. Caleb's going to love that spotlight, to be honest. Can
I go back to one of the deficiencies from earlier? I just thought about this. I don't think the Bears assigned a 3rd tight end yet, have they?
No.
Well, they picked up an undrafted free agent tight end, but he's definitely more of a blocker. I think he had 200 yards total in his. Yeah, he had 200 some yards total in his college tenure. I think he's more of a blocker, but no, they have not. We've talked about this all the time. Shane Waldron loves those 11, 12, 13 personnel. They need one more tight end for sure.
I really wanted the Bears to pick up Fant on the off season because he was familiar with Waldron's system, but obviously re-signed in Seattle, I believe. So.
Yeah, I don't think whoever they sign, I don't think it's going to be any big name or anything crazy, but it'll be somebody who's there to play a role for sure.
They might ask Mercedes Lewis to come play one more year.
I would actually really love that. I would really love that. One more year.
If he's blocking.
Yeah, he can catch the occasional touchdown. Doesn't he have like some of the most touchdowns of a tight end with the lowest yards? Look over.
Maybe with the lowest yards, but definitely not.
Yards. I'm not saying he was a juggernaut as a receiver. I'm going to look that up right now.
I do think there's always going to be some, I'm sure there's going to be some players out there after doing first in regards to a 3rd tight end. Yeah, I don't think you need the most talented guy in the world. You need somebody who can block on the line.
Yeah, there's still a few positions on this team. I'm kind of curious to see how it plays out. Like we've talked about, I totally expect, and I hate to say it, but I 100% expect either Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, Rome Odunze to miss some time at some point this season. So is it Tyler Scott who slots into there, or are they going to go back to Dante Pettis?
I expect Rome Odunze to be injured.
What's that?
I wouldn't expect Rome Odunze to miss any time.
Well, you just never know. I mean, like I said, injuries are not.
He's hurt already with a hamstring.
Yeah, it's not if, it's when,
I think he'll play the least amount of snaps of the 3 of them, and he's the youngest. I foresee his health being.
There's a lot of things there's a lot of little intricate details of this team we're not going to know until we go to training camp. And Sean and I will be there. I think Bern and Dustin are coming along with us, and I can't wait to see it because I think they signed Dante Pettis back on this team for a reason. I don't think he's just going to sit on the bench. I mean, obviously he's primarily a special teamer, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if he was ahead of Tyler Scott in the pecking order when it comes to the number 4 receiver.
Yes, we got 50 in the chat, so I do want to make an announcement. Wednesday of this week at 3:30 p.m. we also have Jay Hood on the show. So thanks again, Trax, for the opportunity to talk to some of these guys. But yeah, if you listen to Cap and Hood in the morning, guys, obviously one of my all-time favorite radio hosts on Chicago sports. So yeah, come check out the show. I think Sean is going to be on there for sure, right? Yeah, I know. Trax will be with it.
Yeah, I'm going to be there.
Yeah, you'll be there. Okay.
I think it's Sean, me, Dustin, and Trax, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, thanks, man. I would love to talk to him. I'm fortunately going to be working through that. But yeah, Jonathan Hood. And then on Thursday, we also have Wendell Davis at the usual time, 8:30. I'm with Q and Pinky and the guys. So check that out as well. Obviously, a former player, Wendell Davis. So yeah, a lot of stuff coming this week, guys. A lot like, I mean, after Cap a couple weeks ago, now Jay Hood. We had Kurt tonight. Chicago Sports Podcast is doing good things. If you want to, get some insight and some stories from the guys who played it and who broadcast it the best, check out Chicago Sports Podcast Wednesday and Thursday as well, too, guys.
Bern, do we have any time left? Can we talk about the Cubs for a few minutes?
Got about 15 minutes. Yeah, I was going to let you guys kind of hash that. We got about 15 minutes. Yeah, and I did want to say, guys, and we talked about it a little bit earlier, Sean, Imanaga is now second favorite for the National League Cy Young. I think literally there's just influence there because he's a rookie. I don't see how he's not the clear-cut favorite right now.
Honestly, he's off to the greatest start of any pitcher in the history of the game. I don't understand how he's not number one.
Yeah, I think, Vernon, you're right 100%. I think the reason is because he's a rookie, and they probably expect him to have a little bit of a fall-off at some point. But right now, if the decision was made today, Shota Imanaga is 100% the Cy Young for the NL. I mean, it's not even debatable.
He might even be the MVP.
Debatable. And you know what? I think Javier Assad should be involved in that conversation as well if he keeps doing what he's doing.
If the season ended today, how is Imanaga not Cy Young, Rookie of the Year, and MVP?
I mean, he's definitely the most valuable Cub. That's for damn sure.
It's amazing. It's amazing to watch because it's not like he's one of these. He's not Paul Skeens. He's not throwing 103, 104 miles an hour. He's just he's kind of like a mix of a Justin Steele and Kyle Hendricks. You know, he throws hard enough, but he's also very smart, and he outsmarts the hitter sometimes.
His pitch choice and his command on the outside of the strike zone. Yeah. I have never seen anything like it, man. His command outside the strike zone, he makes batters swing because it's looking like a strike every time he throws the damn ball. And I haven't seen this. This is different, man. This kid is different. And I thought for the first couple of games, he's a rookie. He's 30 years old, but he's a rookie. He'll come down to earth. It's just not feeling that way.
You know what I love about him more than anything? I mean, maybe not as much as his ERA, but I like his antics and his energy. I mean, did you guys see today they released that video that every time he asks the umpire for a new ball, he does a little bow. He bows to him every single time. I never really noticed it because they don't really show you. But
he's a super likable guy, fan favorite.
He's just such great energy.
Really good fielder on the mound. I mean, he can win a Gold Glove to add to that repertoire that he's getting. I mean, he does everything, and I'll tell you, we're talking about his pitches, dude. He might have one of the best split finger fastballs I've ever seen. He has so much control over that pitch. It's crazy.
Yeah, and Sean, you're right. If he keeps playing the way he has defensively, he could be in the running for a Gold Glove as a pitcher as well. But
he's made some really good plays, man.
A lot, yeah. And he's just one of those guys. It looks unorthodox, but he gets the job done, and it's awesome. He's athletic. But as much as we can sit here and talk about all the positives of the Chicago Cubs, they've not been playing well lately, and that's more what I'd like to discuss with you there, Sean. What do you think is the Cubs' biggest problem right now, especially coming off this series of losing 3 out of 4 to the Pittsburgh Pirates?
You know, we talked about it. I actually posted this on Twitter today. This team needs a spark, and I've been screaming from the mountaintops about Luis Vasquez getting up here and getting Mastroboni. Thank God they sent him down today. We get this kid up here. He's a plus defender. He's a contact hitter. I would really like to see PCA in center and Bush and Belly start rotating DH and first base. That guy's electric. He can bunt. If he can take a walk, which he has been taking walks, just get on base. He'll be on third base before you know it. They need a spark. I think he can provide it. They need to figure out how to get Bush out of his little funk, but he's a rookie. These things happen. But honestly, getting PCA in there, getting a little spark, getting Mastroboni gone, thank God he is. Hopefully getting corner back because we're lacking a contact hitter.
The biggest concern is health.
Yeah.
Health.
Yeah,
18 players injured since the beginning of the season.
I think Cleat brought this up. It's tough to gauge the Cubs and exactly where they're at as a team because first of all, we haven't seen the complete team yet. I mean, even the first game of the season, Justin Steele couldn't finish the game. He had to leave that game with an injury. Then you lost Bellinger and Suzuki at the same time, probably their best power hitters. And then as soon as those two come back, you lose Nico and Swanson, and Nico's probably their best hitter for average.
There's been a bunch of injuries that you don't read in the news. They lost a kid that they liked. I know, Kyle, you weren't, but I said this. The first Chicago Sports Podcast Friday Night Baseball show, me and Matt Cooper did. I said, I am really concerned about the Cubs' health. That is that's going to be the thing that derails this team's season, and it has so far. I mean, they're winning games without their best players. So kudos to Craig Counsell, but it started with Caleb Killian, who was a guy that the Cubs wanted to play this year. I know for sure he did. And I think he went down for the season, and after that, Steele had the injury, and Tyon had the injury before the season started. And it's just gotten worse.
Is it just me?
Here's the stat for you. The Cubs have not had their starting lineup from opening day since the fourth inning of the first game on the field. That's insane.
Well, and even excluding injuries, I mean, is it just me, or does it seem like as a Cubs fan, since they won the World Series in 2016, like they have potential at almost every defense, bullpen, starting pitching, hitting, but it's never all firing on all cylinders at the same time. Like, when they were hitting the heck out of the ball, and they were top three in the NL and runs scored, their bullpen just was horrendous. One of the worst bullpens I've ever seen the Cubs have. And then finally they get these guys like Wisniewski, and they finally have the luxury of getting Ben Brown into the bullpen. And now they've got injuries on the offense. They can't hit.
What's that?
How long are Horner and Wicks out?
Wicks should be back pretty soon. They said the other day on the show that he just started throwing some long toss. So you're probably thinking a couple more weeks for him. But Drew Smiley's actually throwing. Merriweather, actually, they said Sunday's game yesterday that he's actually throwing for the first time this week. So hopefully we can get all these guys back together, and maybe we're going to see a finished product. And you got to look at it this way. For all this crap we're talking about with this team, the 4 games under 500, 2 games out of first, 2 games out of the wild card, they're still right there. And they haven't been healthy since day freaking 1.
Yeah, and a lot of these guys should get better as the season goes on. Particularly Michael Bush and Christopher Morel. Those corners, yeah. Those guys are still young. They're still trying to find their way in this league. Morel's swinging at pitches he should not be swinging at. Bush just seems kind of like he's kind of in a funk. I think Bush needs to adjust his stance a little bit because he's just struggling with that high fastball right now. Yeah. And unfortunately, it's not the high fastball out of the zone; it's the high fastball in the zone. So he needs to figure out a way to hit that pitch, or at least foul it off and fight it off until maybe the pitcher makes a mistake. But like you said, these are adjustments. These guys will make these adjustments. The thing that concerns me most with the Cubs is, if you have these constant rotating door of bullpen pieces, eventually you're probably going to have to make a trade for a bullpen piece, and it stinks because they were talking about. I think I saw like a potential trade, or I think they said that the Cubs could offer.
That silly Mason Miller.
Cassie, Owen Casey, James Triantos, and Alcantara for a pitcher who's had torn his UCL twice and still has not had Tommy John surgery and throws 104 miles an hour. Like, I would not make that trade in a million years. I fully expect the Cubs to do what they normally do, and they're probably going to trade one of their middle tier prospects for a guy who's pitching around a 2.53 ERA and hope that they can pull the best out of him. That's what I expect.
In all honesty, hopefully with Vasquez coming up, hopefully he does have some kind of a stellar stint here, because that could be a trade piece. Because with Rojas in the wings and you have Hernandez in the wings, this kid's not going to be long for the Cubs anyways. I mean, Rojas is
and Cubs fans.
I think they trade Tauchman.
I think they should trade Ian Happ if he has any value left. I mean,
God, I love
I don't,
that.
Yeah, that's
I don't.
what I was gonna say. Is you were talking about, man, like the Michael Bushes and like the Morels, these young guys. Like these guys are young, and of course you want to see them get better and develop. But I'm really expecting like the guys who have. I want to see Suzuki and Happ finally. Like I want to see Suzuki finally be the guy that we
I give up
believe
on
he has
Happ.
potential to be, and Happ needs to just finally be consistent. It's not like he's a
I don't.
bad baseball player. He just can't do it for a year long. I don't
He's an
understand.
average baseball player who's declining.
Yeah, and you know what? Things change on the snap of a finger in baseball, but I don't see any argument right now that you could convince me that we're better off with Ian Happ in left field than Alexander Canario. I mean, like Sean just said, worst comes to worst, if Alexander Canario comes up, he's certainly probably not going to hit worse than 210, which is what Happ's hitting right now. And if he does have a little stint of playing good baseball, he just becomes a valuable trade piece. I mean, at some point, at some point these what they call slumps become patterns. You know, like this has been a long time now. Ian Happ has been struggling at the plate, and then they gave him 2 days off. It almost seems like they benched him. He comes back in, hits a home run, and everybody's like, "Oh, Happ's back," and then he goes 1 for 13. You know,
Such a bump.
That's because I'm not gonna be able to stay till the end of the show.
Oh, I love you, Dustin.
It's a great guy. Good. Good.
not gonna work here anymore.
I also think that more surprises are going to happen in I think training camp, free agents wise. I think he's referring to the Bears. Yeah,
He's talking about
I try not to get too excited about late off season
Late season
signings.
cuts.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Like by June 1st, if somebody's got to let go of somebody that's too expensive, maybe somebody becomes available for the Bears.
Yeah, I think you're going to be able to find a guy who's kind of got like that Noah Fant skill set out there. Obviously, probably not as good, but somebody who can kind of pick up the slack. The Bears, their core is there, the foundation is there, the infrastructure is there. Now they just need to kind of add those little pieces and pretty up a little bit. But I'm not worried about the Bears' offense at all. It's like I said, we talked about on the show. It's the defensive line and pressuring a quarterback that really that makes me a little bit nervous.
I'm not saying this is going to happen, but wouldn't it be just insane? And we'll go back to this show if somehow Poles pulled the rabbit out of his hat and we ended up with Trey Hendrickson some way, somehow, a couple picks. I mean,
yeah, my nerves would be settled.
Out of the route for him, dude, to do some crazy shit like that.
What I do like about Ryan Poles, it seems like all the defensive linemen he's brought here can basically play inside and out. I think Montez Sweat is capable of playing inside. Yeah. I think Walker's capable of playing inside. I think Dexter's capable of playing outside if need be. Yeah, you can tell he likes those long, athletic defensive linemen, and he'll move them all over the place. He'll move them all over the place if he has to.
Don't say to Marcus Walker around Brando.
No, don't, please. They're not even discussed. Well, I'll say this in regards to what you said. It would be crazy to have Trey Hendrickson here, but the one thing that Poles impressed me doing is identifying his weakness and knowing the potential his team has in a season. So if he thinks his offense is playing good enough to win a playoff game or even more, and this defensive line is what's just not going to get it done, he will go do something like that. I think he's just got to think that this is the year. You know what I mean? Because you're not going to, after you trade for Hendrickson, whatever that's going to cost you, you got to give that guy a lot of money. So you'd have to be really convinced that's the piece that's missing before you go win yourself a ring. Because if Ryan Poles even got a whiff of a Super Bowl possibility and thought that pass rush is what's holding him back, he would probably spend it, man. He probably would.
Yeah, I've heard people they say they were talking about bringing Yannick Ngakoue back. I don't think that's. Well, first of all, he underperformed for the Bears, and so if the Bears re-signed him, he got $10 million last year. The Bears would not offer him the same amount. He would probably be insulted. He probably thinks he's still worth the $10 million he got paid last year. You're right, though, Brennan. These cuts and all these, breaking the roster down to 53 men. These teams have drafted all these guys, and they pick up these undrafted free agents and fall in love with a couple of them. Some of these older guys just don't make the cut anymore, and the Bears could take advantage of that for sure.
I wish Walker would make the cut, as in be cut.
I like Walker as a rotational piece. I think he's a high energy guy. I think he's got a good motor. He's obviously wouldn't be my ideal defensive end opposite Montez Sweat, but I think he's probably a little bit better than you give him credit for.
No, we don't have any options.
It's a rotational piece.
Yeah.
If he has 7 sacks this year, Brandon, you're gonna love him.
He plays well when he's got some gas.
He's good at
he
stunts.
Doesn't have
he's
the
really good at
motor.
stunts.
When he's a player that's required to be on the field after they lost Yannick to an injury and Walker was required to be on the field, he vanished. I mean, and we saw the growth of Javon Dexter after the Tez effect, they called it, when Montez Sweat came here, the multiplier. Everybody got better. Javon got better. Walker didn't do a damn thing. Like, it was remarkable how little impact that had.
You know what he is? He's almost. He creates pressure on the quarterback. He just never gets there, man. But you know what? That pressure does throw off the timing. Walker's better than I think people give him credit for. I think he is exactly what Ryan Poles signed him to be. The guy who does not get talked about enough on this team is Andrew Billings. I mean, that signing by Ryan Poles was amazing. I think he was ranked second in the NFL and Pro Football Focus in stopping the run, and the
Bears are the number one run defense, right?
And the Bears let up 84 yards a game last year?
Yeah, you got to credit a lot of that to Billings for sure.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Billings and Brisker were probably the two guys that kept that first place run defense in place. You know what I mean?
Brando, I see a 95 jersey with the name Almost on the back of it in your future.
That better mean that the Bears signed a guy named Almost. All right, folks, let me shout out to these sponsors one more time, guys. We want to thank Bridges Scoreboard in Griffith, Indiana, guys. Go check out Bridges, River Street Tavern. And we know one of the bartenders. He's all right. Serendipity Ice Cream Parlor right across the street from Bridges. So go get yourself a beer and some wings, and then go get some ice cream after that, guys. The kids will love you for it. TC's World of Wonders, your headquarters for all your dreams, Chicago sports jerseys and memorabilia. And I try to get one of those. What was the damn name of the brand? The hat that those guys were wearing during the draft. I forget the hat that they put on when they walked out to be drafted. Caleb Williams and Will McGinley. Yeah, I forget what it's called. There's a
It's 47.
47 brand?
No, it's
New Era.
New Era. I think it was sold out, and if you wanted to buy it from a private seller, it was like $250, dude. So go to TC's World of Wonders because they won't charge you that for anything, guys. So, yeah, and I just Sean, it was great to do a show with you for the first time.
Yeah, it was awesome being with the twins. Yeah. The twins of knowledge.
Glad you made it on. I want to thank.
Yeah, man. Thanks for coming on.
I want to give a shout out again, guys, to Brandon Trax letting us hang out with Kurt Becker for the night. Really cool. Really awesome. Shared some information with some insight you're not going to get anywhere else, guys, except for the guys who played on that team that won a Super Bowl. Kyle, as always, been a pleasure. And to all the viewers out there, Jay, Grizz, Cliff, Dustin, Michael, everybody showing us love throughout the night. Cheryl, Gregory, Paul, thanks for hanging out with us. Thanks for hanging out with Kurt, Ant Moss, AC Adam. Thanks again, guys. Been a pleasure as always, gentlemen.
Platteville.
Got a picture of Wisconsin in your little room.
That's Walter Payton. That's Walter Payton pulling down Suey's shorts, autographed from Platteville in '85.
Sean, this is a children's show. Let's try to keep it G-rated, buddy. All righty, fellas. We shall do this again. And again, Wednesday night, guys. Jay Hood with the boys here. Kyle, Sean, Dustin will be on. I know Trax will definitely be on that one. Guys, come show Jay Hood some love just for giving us the time. Wednesday, 3:30 p.m. I know he gets up early for the Cap and Hood show, so he's going to do a little bit of an early show for us, guys. But, yeah, come out, show Jay Hood your love. I'm sure he's got some stories as well. I'd love to hear some Jay Hood Cap stories from Jay Hood. I like to hear from Jay Hood's perspective after having Cap on the show. But as always, guys, this is the Chicago Sports Podcast. Bear down.
Bear down.
Guys, hang on.